The meeting of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It's Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. It is 7 p.m. We're at the Charlton Middle School. We'll all stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. Now, the minutes of the search committee, we just have two Stephanie's not here. How about anyone else here from?
There's no one else here.
I'll
Can we
hold
table
it.
them?
Yeah, I'll hold it. So we'll hold the search committee minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of Monday, June 11th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of Wednesday, June 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of things.
Okay.
On page 2, I think it is, when we list the members of the different subcommittees, on the negotiation one, Mrs. Carmignani was also on that one, for the negotiations with the DCTA.
Okay.
Then I have another one on page 4 about the handbook for Shepherd Hill. We said not to, at least I think the agreement was to change that thing about class dues and just say financially good standing, but that doesn't show up anyplace. It says it was approved as presented, and it really wasn't because we changed that. That was on page 4. Let me see, it says a motion by Ms. Baba to accept the revisions as presented. There was a change, which should be as amended. Right, because we said to change
Right,
that.
right. Okay,
I
anything?
got some more.
Okay.
This would be on page 4B at the bottom of page 4. Well, 13th, yeah, these are all the 13th. Page
I
4,
thought missing two.
we're missing
We're
pages, we're missing pages, but it's on our
pages,
iPad.
right.
Okay.
We're missing pages in the hard
That's
copy.
why I'm like,
That's right, that's right.
okay, so
Who's on
page,
first?
From 3 to 5, I'm
Okay,
just,
the first omission was on page 2. We should add Mrs. Carmignani to the DCTA teaching negotiation. We don't have page 2 here. Then on page 4, it said that the handbook was accepted as presented. It should say as amended, because we did say to take out about class dues and just say something about financially good ground or something like that. Then I have another one, I don't think it's on hard copy, but it's page 6, the F section about the foreign exchange students. I had asked if they accounted for our school enrollment, and I asked that question. It's not reflected in the minutes, that I asked you to check to see if they're part of our enrollment.
I have an answer.
I don't care if you don't answer, but it should be in the minutes.
Yep.
And the last one, is this too fast for you? You all set? The last one was a discussion about the teacher that's coming up to Shepherd Hill about extended employment. I believe we withdrew that motion until you found out how to handle it. And I suggested you afterwards, she doesn't really have to come to us, because you can
That's right.
transfer any teacher
Transfer,
you want.
yep.
So I don't think we have to vote on that at all. You just transfer.
Right,
Right.
so you did withdraw the motion.
Yeah, but it doesn't reflect that here.
Okay.
So that motion was withdrawn. That's on page 8.
on
Someplace.
page 8.
Page 8, at the top, it says, 1 year leave of absence, and we withdrew that because she's not taking a year of absence, she's being transferred, and we don't care, because that's the superintendent's discretion. And you make an extended employment, will be here for that position. Okay. Okay, thanks.
are we all set?
So, that's it for tonight.
Any more?
I've been quiet for a while, you know. I don't know if she could read it. You've been, she's good.
So, any others? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Now, I guess we can do the search committee, it doesn't matter. Just you two are going to be the ones to vote it in. So, Stephanie, I'll make a motion to approve the interim superintendent search committee of June 6th. Okay, any discussion on those minutes?
Should we separate out the executive session from the regular session?
Yes, so
Okay.
this is the regular, this
Okay.
is the regular one first. Any discussion on it? So, all in favor? So, it's the search committee only. So, that was
Richard did it, right?
unanimous.
Richard had the search,
Oh, that's right, Rich, you could vote on that, too.
right? You won it only time. Wake up.
I get to raise my hand at the table.
And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the search committee's executive session that was held on June 6th.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, that brings us to citizens forum. State your name.
Stephen Sage, 41 Lincoln Point Road, Charlton. At your last meeting, there was a discussion about outstanding monies due for meals at the schools, and it was quite a lively discussion. I have absolutely no problem with helping to support individuals who are in financial need or who all of a sudden have some sort of financial need that didn't occur at the beginning of the year when they could fill out the forms due to financial need. I've got no problem with that. I do have a problem with the fact that I really believe that there's a difference between people who have financial need and people who set priority. There's a complete difference between that. And I would hope that anybody who has financial need issues would approach either their principals, the superintendent, even the school committee, to help resolve and also hopefully put them to a path of finding some help. And I would hope that it would be the kind of thing that they would feel they could approach any one of those people on their own without any problem. Although I do recognize that there is a four-letter word that is very much considered a negative word in our society called help. It's a very nasty four-letter word. People feel that if they ask for help, it degrades them in some way. And I would hope that people would stop feeling that way and seek out the assistance that they need. But as far as priority, that's a whole different issue with me. I went through 4 years of high school and actually 4 years of college without even having a cell phone. There are reasons for that. They did not exist, and I know the world has changed quite a bit, but we seem to have a willingness to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year to have a cell phone, but may decide that that's a bigger priority than paying for our meals. I don't know the individual things, but I would hope the school committee would certainly seek out the reasons why somebody is not paying their meals. And if it's an issue of priority, they need to work out some way of adjusting their priorities so that the taxpayers, of which I am one, are not hit with this expense. Issues of financial need, absolutely, I have no qualms about the school committee finding those funds. Priority issues, I do have a problem with. So I did want to state that. Second thing is, Greg, this is your last meeting. I want to thank you for the atmosphere and the leadership that you've first provided, that I became aware of you much more at Dudley Middle School. Having a wife who teaches there, she got to live under that atmosphere for many, many years and was greatly appreciative of that. And having a wife who's happy makes me a very happy person. But also then there's the leadership and the atmosphere that you created for the entire district. And it should be commended of what you've given to our community, our communities. But in our discussions, we've also talked about, in my opinion, you are making the absolutely perfect decision for yourself. And you should be commended on deciding what your priorities are and choosing to follow those priorities. And you should leave here with tremendous amount of pride of what you have accomplished. And I wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to communications. Mr. Desto, do you have any this evening?
Well, I would just like to repeat what Mr. Sage just said, if I could. No, I do not have any communications tonight, Mrs. O'Coin.
Okay, how about our members?
Just one to bring to everybody's attention, I'm sure they received the mailing from MASC that they're doing their Summer Institute in July in Marlborough, and they have 2 days of workshops, Friday and Saturday. I have heard wonderful things about this program that they started last year. There are a couple of topics that are definitely have been things that we've talked about at our level. So I wanted to bring it to people's attention. I don't know if Mrs. Terry and Mrs. Carmignani would have received it because they're new. So I'm going to send it down because they can register. I would go, unfortunately, I'm away at a business conference. But one of the things that they have there is start times, which we've talked about in social emotional learning. So you might want to take a look at that.
Thank you, Elaine. Anyone else? Okay, and I don't have any this evening, so that brings us up to our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. I have good news, bad news, and medium news tonight. I'll begin, ironically, with the medium news. And that is just a reminder to the committee that the MASC-MASS Joint Conference, which has been really productive for us, at least in the time that I've been here, I think well before that as well, is November 7th through 10th in Hyannis, as always. And I just wanted to remind everybody that if you want to go, if you register before July 15th, we get a significant discount, $100 discount per person. So please reach out to Sandy if you do want to go to the conference, and we'll register you with the early bird discount. I don't know if you want to talk about that or just move past it.
No,
People
well,
can
people that are
talk to Sandy.
interested in going can call Sandy.
Okay.
Set everything up.
All right.
And then in the future, naturally, we're going to vote for our delegate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay?
So the second thing is, I was unpleasantly surprised today to receive a letter from the Mass School Building Authority, MSBA. I anticipated that we would get it around this time, but I feel like it represents sort of like a new low. So I'm going to read you for really the main part of it, because the beginning part is all just sort of buttering us up. So towards the end, it says, as described in the 2018 Statement of Interest for Accelerated Repair Program Overview, the budget for the qualifying schools is approximately $50 million statewide. Given the budget impact from the number of qualifying statements of interest filed for the program in 2018, the MSBA must limit the number of invitations this year. So that's the same as usual. They only have so much money, and based on how many people apply and what the need is, they have to limit how many they can take. We know that. As referenced in the overview, if limiting the number of invitations, the MSBA would adjust the qualifying age requirements. And now here we're getting into something interesting. While the MSBA is able to maintain the 30-year age requirement for windows and doors, the age requirement for roofs was 20 years or older. So now they continue by saying only roof and boiler systems of 25 years or more are considered for invitation to the program in 2018. After careful consideration and due diligence conducted by MSBA staff with all of the statements of interest that were submitted, it has been determined that the Shepherd Hill Regional High School will not be invited into the Accelerated Repair Program based upon the age of the roof as stated in the Statement of Interest. So when we wrote the Statement of Interest, it had to be 20 years or more. Our roof is 23 years old. We had it replaced 23 years ago. And then they had to move the target to 25 because of, in their judgment, the number of applications and the need and all that stuff. And then they add, MSBA remains committed to partnering with the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District to better understand any school facility issues in the district. So, you know, disappointing to say the least. I shouldn't be surprised, but I was. I really felt like we were going to be in great shape. I don't even know what to say as far as going forward, but I think if I had to say tonight, I guess it's year to year. So if when the statement of interest process opens for accelerated repair for 2019, if it once again moves the number back to 20 years, we'll be 24 years old now, we can apply. If they keep it at 25, we needn't even apply. So then maybe we go back for the core program, because why not? You know, it's worth a shot, even though it's a super long shot. So unfortunate, but we've been here before. And I'm going to refrain from making my Cleveland Browns comment. Now the good news, if I may. Tonight is a great night that has become a nice tradition for our district, where we honor the teachers who will be retiring in the district in a given year. And this year, I want to recognize 6 people, only 2 of whom were able to attend, but that's okay. And I'm going to do yours last, okay? I'm going to build drama and do yours last. You know about drama, right, Mrs. Buccieri? You're the drama teacher at the middle school. So I'll start with Ann Carroll, and I want to just read a very quick blurb about each person so we get a sense of what we're losing here. Ms. Carroll joined the district from the Worcester Public Schools, similar to Mrs. Cabala and myself, in 1990 when she served as a substitute. She was appointed to the full-time teacher of grade 3 at Dudley Elementary School in 1991 and remained there until 1993 when she transferred to grade 2. In 1998, interesting to note, Mrs. Carroll moved to the district office to serve as the K-4 curriculum coordinator. I didn't know we had that.
We had Gloria Lumber, so.
Ah,
yeah,
that's
it's
pretty
over.
sweet. Then, when that position was eliminated, Mrs. Carroll returned to the grade 4 classroom in 2002, and she's been there ever since. So we recognize tonight Ann Carroll from Dudley Elementary School. Also, want to recognize Jean Hackinson. Mrs. Hackinson was hired at the then brand-new Charlton Middle School in July of 2000 as a grade 8 science teacher, where she has served ever since. She was originally a nurse and served 3 elementary schools in the district before embarking on a teaching career in 1996, first in Southbridge, then Webster, then returned to Dudley-Charlton as referenced in 2000 at Charlton Middle, and she's been here ever since. So we want to congratulate Jean as well. Jean and I started at Charlton Middle School the very same day. Janet Richardson came to the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District in October of 2001 as a teacher of grade 1 special education, and she's remained there ever since. Prior to joining the staff at Mason Road, she taught in parochial schools in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. So she did the Catholic circuit. And then the final one I would like to recognize who wasn't able to make it tonight is Linda Wheeler. Linda was kind of a late-breaking retirement. She really didn't make the decision until about 2 months ago. Linda came to Dudley-Charlton in 1989 as a Chapter 1 aide, which is now, of course, Title I, and as an 8-week substitute before being hired in August of 1990 to teach in the district's special education resource room. So it must have been a district-wide thing because she had classes at Shepherd Hill, Dudley Elementary, and Dudley Intermediate. Well, when the intermediate school gave way to Dudley Middle School in 2000, Mrs. Wheeler was hired there and has stayed there for those 18 years. Prior to coming to the district, she worked at West Brookfield Elementary, Tantascwa, and David Prouty. And I will say, personally, I had the honor of working with Linda for 10 years, and I will say very simply, she's going to be very, very difficult to replace. Now, we build the drama, and we talk about Mrs. Buccieri. Thank you for coming, Michelle. Mrs. Buccieri, if I get any of this wrong, please correct me, because those other people, if anything was wrong, they're not going to know. It sounds like we know what we're doing, but if anything's wrong here, you let us know, but we think we have it right. Okay, so Mrs. Buccieri was hired in 1991, also as a Chapter 1 teacher, and that's, of course, now Title I. She began her teaching in nursery and preschools before joining the staff of Tantascwa Junior High School as an instructional assistant and reading teacher. After 2 years of operating her own in-home daycare, Mrs. Buccieri worked at Warren Elementary School as a preschool teacher and then moved up to the big leagues of Dudley-Charlton and has been teaching 5th and 6th grade at Charlton Middle School since 2000, including my 4 years there, where I very much enjoyed working with Michelle, who, like me, and I will say also like you, Mrs. Cabala, always insisted on proper manners and grammar and usage. And in a world that's devaluing that more and more every day, you know, that really became more appreciated and more rare as time went on. So I'm grateful for that, and we'll miss you, Michelle, and I want to wish you just the very best in every single day of your retirement. We have a little gift to recognize, as also there'll be a book in your honor in one of the Dudley-Charlton libraries. But we have a clock. I don't know if anybody else wants to give it, or you want me to give it?
You can give it.
Oh, I already told you what it is. But you know it's a great tradition in Dudley-Charlton that when you finally reach the point where you don't have to keep track of the time, you give you a clock. But I also have
Best wishes.
which will enable you to have free admission at any event in the district for the rest of your life. Congratulations.
Thank you, Michelle, for your dedication to the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District. Best wishes in your retirement.
Thank you very much.
Tom, you're the main event here, I guess. And I said to Tom before the meeting, Tom started the wrestling program at Shepherd Hill, in addition to many other accomplishments, and I should have brought one of my belts with me. As we talked about, he started the real wrestling program, not the scripted stuff. So, anyway, Tom Boyd, Tom, is it true you were a member of the second graduating class of Shepherd Hill Regional High School in 1975? It was a great World Series that year. And then Mr. Boyd began his career in Dudley-Charlton as a teacher of social studies in 1986, and came back home after teaching at the Winchendon School and the Perkins School. Does that sound right? Tom has been described as a legend and a Mount Rushmore figure at Shepherd Hill for his uncommon ability to connect with high school students. Recent outreach by former students on social media has been a true testament to the incredible positive impact to the man the kids affectionately call Boydo. Shepherd Hill will never be the same without you, Tom, and I must confess that when I became superintendent 4 years ago, I really didn't know you. It took me about 2 hours to realize that the kids love you, and I started my career in 1992, but so you could say I'm kind of in the middle of old school and new school. I'm not a real believer that the kids always have to love you, but I really think that it helps nowadays. And the students truly, truly have great affection for you, and that tells me that you care about them. I also had the pleasure of my own son having Tom as a teacher 1 year at Shepherd Hill. Tom, congratulations. I know you're going to have fun in your retirement. I wish you all the best. I've already provided you a pass. I hope you didn't lose it yet. I didn't. Okay, good. And we also have another little gift for you here. And yes, you know what it is. It's not a big surprise, but.
Thank you, Tom, for your service. And Kathy was here in 1986 when you first were hired. I came in the next year.
Is that when school committee was hiring the teachers?
Back then, we had to,
Yeah.
the superintendent recommended, but we had
Yeah,
to approve it.
well, that was a good
So you
decision.
can thank us.
That-
You can thank me. You can thank me for your career.
Yeah, just really congratulations to both of you, and thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I always say, it's hard to even, I'm not there yet, so I don't even know what it would feel like to look back with such pride on all the things that you've accomplished. And I want to try to get this right, but I've said this every year. The truly great ones neither burn out nor fade away. They come back as substitute teachers. Tom, we'll give you a couple months, Michelle will give you a couple of free months, and then we'll start calling you around October. Once the warm weather's done and you're looking for something to do. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks
Great
so
job.
much.
Job well done.
Superintendent's report is concluded.
I ended with the good news.
Thank you. That brings us to new business, Dudley-Charlton CPAC presentation. So we do have someone here this evening, and
Yes, Jill, if you want to come right on up, is it just you? You going it alone?
going
All
along.
right, well, bless you. Please feel free to just make sure you speak into the microphone.
Okay,
Welcome.
thank you. Thank you so much for having us tonight. As I'm sure some of you know, in late April, we formed a new CPAC committee, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. It's been a few years since our district has had such a committee. We're very excited to be here and representing our special ed population. Our real intent tonight is to come and introduce ourselves as new board members and to present a proposed budget for next year. But first, I'd really like to start with introducing myself as Jillian Anderson. I'm the co-chair. I do have another co-chair, Mrs. Laura Rotondo, and there are other several. She's right over there in the crowd. Hello. Hi. Getting my support from the crowd. We have a vice chair, recording secretary, and a publicity secretary that we are very excited to get up and going on social media and to just get our mission statement and our agendas out to the school and our community of parents. That being said, our mission statement for the coming year is really to inform parents about their rights regarding special ed and to invite them to all of our meetings that we have to help disseminate information about programs and services that the school system may offer to us. We are also hoping to help parents learn advocacy skills for their students when it comes to their education. The most important thing that I'd like to say is that between a lot of us that are on the board, we have many years of professional experience working in the school system, but most importantly, we're parents of our loved little children, and we want the best for them, and we want to bring a positive voice to the district and work collaboratively to help in any type of dialogue or decision-making when it comes to special ed programs. So that being said, we have proposed a budget which would include a Mass Pack Plus membership for $450, and then we're asking for $1,550 for additional speakers and trainings for parent education and advocacy. We do have some trainings that are in the works. We also have reached out to other CPAC communities, specifically Tantascwa Union 61, to gain a large audience to bring in some really great trainers and speakers for our parents. That would include basic rights presentations. It would include annual workshops, leadership and support trainings, and potential networking and other conferences that are put on through the Federation.
Okay, so you're asking for the $2,000?
Yes.
And $500 would pay the membership fees?
Yes.
Okay, so we can discuss it and vote on giving them $2,000 that they're asking for.
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget presented tonight for $2,000 for CPAC.
Okay, any discussion?
Is that for the whole year? Would that cover all your speakers for the year? Do you think that's enough?
That would cover our intended speakers for the year. We do intend to do some fundraising throughout the year where we'd like to set up an account and provide some additional funds.
Which is good that they'll
Right.
have a fundraiser too. 2,000 seems fair enough to
Seems
start
pretty
off.
low for speakers, that I know they're expensive. That's why I wondered if you think that will cover it for now.
Well, the typical speaker that we've been looking into is running anywhere from $250 to $500 per night. We're planning on meeting monthly on the third Tuesday of every month to have meetings, and also with working collaboratively with other CPAC communities, we should be able to split the cost and share some attendance for some other bigger trainings.
My other question is, where would the funding come from this under the special ed department, or where would it come from?
We still have hiring to do over the summer, generally, we do end up with a level of savings from there. So I would say that, we could plan on that, and if that did fall through, then we could take a look at the contingency fund that is in the district-wide budget.
It's such a small amount.
Exactly.
It's such a small amount, but I just wondered if you had, so probably teaching savings. from
That's
retirement
the
time.
most likely place.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm certainly in support of the low budget you presented. I just wonder, as you get rolling, do you have opportunities to apply for grants or other kinds of funding opportunities other than fundraisers through the community or such? Are there organizations in central Massachusetts that would help fund an effort like you're providing?
At the moment, off the top of my head, I do not know of any such grants that we could apply for. I'm sure that there is some sort of organization out there that we could tap into. I do know that the Federation, through our MassPac Plus membership that we're asking for, does offer a lot of trainings and webinars for us annually. And then also, if we went through with the Apple program, which is a parent professional leadership program for education, we would be able to start there as a nice base and then maybe expand once we get bigger membership crowds to our group. Right now, we're just starting. We're a little small. So we'd like to boost our numbers if we could.
Sure.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like when you're starting, you almost have a leg up on these grants because they can recognize that you have a lot of potential to move
Right.
forward. There is a Central Mass Health Foundation that you might want to look
Okay.
into and see what previous people have applied for and see what
Okay.
could adapt for what you're looking for.
Great, thanks for the offer.
Sure.
And I'm so happy that there's a startup on CPAC. We've been without it for a few years.
We're excited to be here.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
we're excited to have you.
Thank you so much.
Any other discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. You've got a budget of $2,000.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you for all your work on this.
Yes, thank
All of
you.
you.
Thank you. We hope to be working together a lot closely in the future. And I'd just like to say congratulations to our retired teachers this year. Mr. Boyd, I had you as a high school.
He's like,
So
I
it's
remember
nice
that
to
time.
see you
didn't give
again, I
homework."
know. Congratulations. Thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to Director of Finance and Operations report, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you very much. The DCEF collected and donated $2,750 from the John Peer basketball tournament to the John Peer Student Support Fund. Additionally, as we were going through the records, we realized that we hadn't brought forward the donations that had been received through the spring for the John Peer Support Fund, and the total of those is $11,367.78. The total for the fund for the year is the $36,027.65. Additionally, the Dudley Middle School received a donation of $500 from the University of Michigan for their participation in the Monitoring the Future study. I recommend that these donations be accepted.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the donations presented this evening. Discussion?
Just one on the John Peer Fund. We were going to work on some kind of guidelines. Is that in the work in progress?
Yeah, actually, I haven't started on that yet, and we are processing many requests for students who are in financial need to attend summer camps and enrichment opportunities over the summer and so forth. So let me work on that a little bit tomorrow, and it's something I'm probably going to have to leave undone but it can at least be a project moving forward. And I apologize, we haven't made progress on that to
My
this
only
point.
question is, who approves those? Do we have to, or is it like you're going to perform like a board or something?
I have been approving them,
Okay.
and I'm operating under the impression that that's okay. The requests are generally coming from a teacher through their principal, then to me, and I approve and bring them to Donna. And they get processed and the check gets sent to the proper, whether it's a summer camp or whatever it might be. So we finally have a system that's working, but we still don't have those guidelines as to
Right.
what is and is not acceptable use of
Right.
the funds. And it's interesting to note that Mrs. Pear is working on, along with she has some people supporting her, to make it a separate nonprofit organization. If that happens, then the committee's gonna have to talk about whether or not to, give the funds to the nonprofit organization, which I guess would be the right thing to do. And then we would still be a part of, we would still generate the requests, but they would be the ones approving them. And I think in the long run, that's probably the better way to go.
Kind of like the Ed Foundation, right? Isn't that exactly?
Correct, it would be a separate foundation.
But the same
Exactly.
concept.
Exactly. And but for right now, we still do control the funds, and will do for the foreseeable future, I think at least through the fall of next year.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Desto?
Sure.
Is there some historical information of how we've used the money so that we can provide that to them if they go into a foundation, so that they can see the type of need that's there and
You mean,
plan accordingly? So if it's,
Yeah.
if it's for fees or camp,
Yep.
so that,
So you're saying what we've used the funds for,
right.
yeah, we
Just
can
so
we
that
can
they can
generate a
plan.
report on that pretty quickly.
Mr. Matthew, can you elaborate on what the Monitoring the Future study is?
Unfortunately, I can't. It obviously is something that the middle school entered into the University of Michigan, but I honestly don't know.
Okay.
We'll take their money, though.
I think I'll look it up. I've got a general idea of what it is, but, well, are you done with your report?
No.
No.
Okay, then I'll look it up.
No, if I can get through this, I'll.
We're on discussion right now with the donations. Anything else? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Okay?
As we were reviewing the cafeteria staffing and preparing for next year, in our review, we uncovered 3 and possibly 4 positions which had working hours changed dating back to approximately 2012. It's unclear if these positions and increased hours were reviewed and approved by school committee. The change was an additional quarter hour per day for each staff member. Even though this is 6 years late, I request that school committee vote to approve these hours, so there's an appropriate paper trail.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 4 positions.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Attached and in your packet were the French River Educational Collaborative bids for school supplies, custodial supplies, computer supplies, and athletic supplies. As you're probably all well aware, this is the collaborative process that we use with a number of other school districts to procure the basic supplies for these areas, and I recommend that we approve those bids.
Okay, so we'll take the school supplies first, and Mr. Matthew did have the vendors and who
Yeah,
won the
you-
bid.
you had the full
So
detail.
we'll just vote on approving the school supplies. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. And now we have the bids for the custodial supplies. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Approve the computer supplies.
So
bid.
moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. And the last is athletic supplies bid.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous, so we do have approval on the bids.
Thank you very much. If only everything could go as smoothly and procedurally as that. And just a last piece of information for the committee, and I'd look for your input on this. Possible dates for warrant training for the new members and everybody else would be for July 13th and July 20th, Friday. Either day works for the district treasurer and myself. We would plan to start at 3 o'clock. And I have worked with the software company to review the warrant report information. We can have this modified so that the appropriation number that you see on the report is a better reflection of the actual budget status. And I think that's a good step forward, with all the work that we've done with emailing the warrants and those sorts of things. So it's something I want to put in. I'll make a change as soon as we can. I would like to talk to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee and get a little finer delineation on how best to do this, because there's one of two ways of doing it, one slightly easier, one a little more complex.
So do you want to keep the 2 dates, or you want to pick just one date, maybe? we should
If
just
everybody
keep-
could attend one, that would be
It'd be
great,
easier
but
for you.
if not, then
I can only do the 13th.
So can I can't do the 20th. either.
13th.
13th, because the 20th is this thing.
There
Oh,
you
okay.
go.
How about everybody else?
I will be away, so both of those dates.
Lucky you.
I'll think of you from Italy.
Okay.
telling us that, Mary.
Nice.
Well-
Rub it in.
I know.
Keep rubbing it in.
I will.
we'll plan for July 13th, and
Yes.
Mrs. Antossi, we can catch up at a later date.
Thank you.
Just on the warrant, Mrs. O'Connor, we're supposed to approve that.
Oh, yeah,
subcommittee.
we need a subcommittee for the warrant. Remember, I didn't
Oh, that's
appoint
right,
it last
yeah.
time. So we'll do the same people. I'm interested in Stephanie. Okay, so it'll be the same.
Should you
Okay.
have an alternate, Mrs. O'Coin, in
Yes,
case
please.
somebody's on vacation? I know with Stephanie's work schedule, it's
Yeah.
getting complicated for her,
Oh, okay.
so.
Who would like to be an alternate?
I think I was the alternate
Yeah,
last
I
time.
think so.
I'm-
Right,
I'm more
Mary
than
is.
happy to do that
Yeah.
again. so.
Mary, you are,
Just
because
like the coordinator.
even she calls you
They'll be back
if
up.
she has the reg.
Can any of us do that? I mean, couldn't we all be on a backup?
Yeah, yeah.
That
But
way you're like
she's the next person called, because she's going to she signs the red folder, so when it's available. Mary, she was on the subcommittee with us. If you're not available, we have everyone else.
The red folder is the payroll folder.
We
Yeah.
all signed it.
That's
That's
fine,
good.
that's fine.
That's why we bring it here tonight, so that
Yeah,
everybody can sign it.
everybody signs when it's here. But
Before she can issue
whoever's
the check, yes,
available,
have
but
three people
the
sign.
authorized warrant subcommittee is you, me, Stephanie, and Mary. And anyone else that's available if we're not.
It has to be signed before she can issue the check. And they don't want to wait till another meeting.
Right.
And that's why the payroll is so critical.
But everybody gets to look at all the warrants and get
It's up
everything.
in the office.
Where will the warrant training be held?
District office.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Rich.
You want to know what monitoring the future is?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
So it's, as I suspected, it's a long-running study of the behaviors, attitudes, and values of secondary school students. So each year, the University of Michigan, since 1975, surveys 50,000 students nationwide in grades 8, 10, and 12, and they send out the word as to who would be willing to participate. Dudley Middle School accepted the quote-unquote challenge this year, surveyed their 8th grade students, got a $500 donation, and I don't know if they've received it yet, but we'll get some good feedback about. It looks like drug use is largely what they survey. It's risky behaviors in general, but largely drug and alcohol use. So,
That's great, thank you.
yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is consideration to increase stipends, and Mr. Desto will explain that.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. So I'm asking the committee's consideration tonight to increase 2 stipends to make the pay equivalent to what we feel the responsibilities of the positions are. I've tried to provide as much information as I could. Both of these stipends are under the control of the school committee. They're not included in the collective bargaining agreement. So I have provided additional information tonight as well. It looks like this. Okay, just indicating some of the, really some of the newer responsibilities of the webmaster, and then I'll get to the sub-coordinators next. So, taking them one at a time, the webmaster position, a brief history, I included a history of the payouts for the webmaster over the years in your package last Friday. It appears as though the stipend was originally $9,000+ and was reduced to $5,000 in 2012. I think, but couldn't be 100% certain, when the person who was serving in the position retired. It looks like maybe that's when the change in stipend was made. And that probably was a cost that made sense at the time. But since then, and especially in the past 2 years, the responsibilities of the position have increased dramatically. As we've become more and more reliant on technology, the webmaster positions become needed on a daily basis and a 12-month basis. The webmaster is essentially handling the district website and all the sub-sites of all the 7 schools. She's also responsible for providing training to employees who now use online grading systems instead of traditional grading books and other things that connect through our website. So currently, this is a huge responsibility that includes many layers, and Kelly Frederico, who's a teacher, a technology teacher at Charlton Middle, is currently the webmaster. And she basically has to be on call all the time. Every time, this is just a small example of how challenging the job can be, but when each time we've had a crisis in the district, I've had some success with posting a letter on the website and then alerting parents to the fact that they could go there to find it rather than to leave a message on their phone about what the crisis is. I've had to call Kelly at midnight, on a Saturday, at all kinds of crazy times and ask her right away to get that letter up there so we could notify families, and she's always been able to come through. But it's less about her coming through and more about really what the responsibilities of the job are. So it's my recommendation that we increase the stipend to $7,500 to begin next year to better reflect the responsibility it entails. Do you want to vote on them one at a time, or do you prefer to do them both?
No, we'll do this and then we can vote on it, we can discuss it. Do you think that's enough?
Well, I mean, I honestly think it should be as high as any stipend in the district, and I think eventually it's going to need to be higher than $7,500, but Rome wasn't built in a day. It represents a good faith move toward probably ultimately where it needs to be. I think you may see someday that it's going to be like a part-time job or something, you know, honestly, if we continue to be so reliant on our website provides us with a lot of tools too. You know, it interfaces with our student information system. So much of what happens there is connected with what Anne Marie has to do at the district office, you know, as the data manager.
Does she have any time during the school day, like a duty? Do they have
This
duties up
is
here?
supposed, she has a regular teacher schedule, a full 6 classes a day, 1 prep period, just like everyone else. So this is supposed to be totally separate from her responsibilities at school.
Don't you think that might be something to look at?
We could look at that,
You know,
yes.
like the teachers at high school have it as their duty.
Yeah,
Like
a
a study hall or
possibility.
something.
We couldn't, certainly she can't teach fewer classes because.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't know
yeah,
how you could work
She
it,
couldn't
though.
because they're already maxed out as far as the number of teachers they have for the subject, but I don't know if she performs any other duties in the school, and that is definitely something that we.
I mean, if she had some other duty, like say lunch duty, I
Right,
just don't, that,
yeah.
I think she shouldn't have that.
Okay,
You know, I would
That would
suggest
be-
that would give her, free up some time.
that would be something, yeah.
So why don't you look into that with
Okay.
the principal?
So I will entertain a motion to approve the stipend of $7,500.
So moved. Second.
Any more discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr. Lipton, before we move past it, we maybe ask Mr. Matthew if he can bring this back up to us at next year or a year after that, so that we don't overlook the fact that her
Right.
duties have probably increased.
Good idea.
Absolutely.
I think it's something that we probably is going to bear witness as to whether or not we need to move it into some other fashion than this being
Right.
something that somebody's doing part-time. I think,
Because it's,
to Mrs. Antosi's point, parents are expecting instantaneous information on the website, and if she's teaching during the day and doing this on the, when she completes her teaching duties, then we might have to look at whether or not this becomes something that, of a bigger position, that we're having somebody doing this. So I think it's worth studying, absolutely.
yes.
It's easier at the high school because they have duties, and so they just make it, it's easier if it's a high school person. But in
Little
the middle
bit, yeah.
school, they're booked solid during the day, so that's the
Yeah,
trouble.
pretty much. Shall I move on?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. The other one is the substitute coordinators, which, to provide a little bit of history, I was assistant principal at Charlton Middle School from 2000 to 2004 and had to be the substitute, the assistant principals were the sub-coordinators at that time in the district. And the very day I left being assistant principal, the committee was kind enough to include a stipend for a sub-coordinator. But I would have told you at that time that it was the best decision you ever made, because I'll tell you what, it is a very challenging job. And it takes place very early in the morning. So anyway, these stipends were approved by the committee in '04 at $1,000, which was a good starting point, and then increased to $2,000 in 2013. Again, in my opinion, a good decision. And I still think that the $2,000 rate makes sense at our smaller schools, but it's become, what really alerted me to the challenge here is that it's become increasingly difficult to get people to take the position at the larger schools, where the responsibility can take an hour or more each morning and also requires, at times, ongoing attention throughout the day as people may have to leave early or whatever the case may be. So that kind of led us to looking at how many staff in each school are like sub-dependent that we would get subs for. And so I included that information in tonight, a little late. But when we look at our schools, Heritage School is 60, and the other elementary schools are below that. But if you look at Shepherd Hill, they've got 101 staff that could possibly require a sub, 79 at Charlton Middle and 72 at Dudley Middle. I think that the right thing to do would be to increase the stipend at Shepherd Hill to $3,000. It's a real beast of a task. And then $2,500 at the middle schools, and leave it for this year at $2,000 in the elementary schools. I think that would be really fair. So that's my recommendation.
Okay. So, because you're leaving it at 2,000, we don't have to vote on that? Or
Correct.
do you, right,
You
just
wouldn't
the
have to.
new
That's right.
salary, stipends?
Yeah.
So it's the 3,000 and the 2,500. The 2,500 are for the middle schools and 3,000 is for Shepherd Hill. So I'll entertain a motion for approval. Okay, do I have a second? Discussion? Go ahead, Stephanie.
What were they prior to? I might have missed that.
I think they were all 2,000?
They were all
All
2,000.
2,000.
Oh, they were all
Yes.
2,000, okay.
That's not, who does that? Is that, it's not the assistant principals like in some school systems?
No,
It
it's
can be
a
anybody who wants
position
to?
that people
Yeah.
can apply for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's been sometimes a teacher, sometimes a secretary. Sometimes, the only time I've seen the assistant principals do it since 2004 was when there was no one else that could do it. that
Now,
would-
do
that
they
applied
apply for this every year? Or if they have it, they keep it?
No, it's like all stipends that are applied for on an annual
Okay.
basis. Yeah.
Do we have a plan as to where the stipend funds would come from?
Yeah, I do, actually. And I was thinking about, that the possibility would exist that tonight we would approve essentially, $4,500 in increases here. So it's $2,000 here and $2,500 here. And it's looking like, based on the committee's decision later tonight to approve a recommended salary for the Dudley Middle School assistant principal, that's going to be lower than what was budgeted for Mr. Sturgis by more than the number of dollars here. So that's what Rich and I were thinking as far as that.
Go ahead, Ken.
I just have a question about, for someone that's doing this as a stipend position, are they, I know they're calling in the morning, but
Yeah.
once the school day begins, then it's run by the secretaries, I imagine, if they need a sub coverage.
Yeah, well, if you have to like move internal people around,
Right,
yes. People are not getting pulled out of their classrooms.
Right.
But I would tell you that there are times when a teacher, for example, a teacher at Shepherd Hill had this duty last year, and would, have to hustle a little bit during the day, because she's the one that's regularly in contact with the subs and has the connections there. So it isn't frequent that happens. By and large, done by 7 a.m.,
Right.
and then you're focused on what you need to focus on. But it's not only a 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. either, because sometimes people have absences that they plan on long-term. They might come to you at 3 o'clock, and now you're scrambling at 3 o'clock a little bit too. So it's a very I did it for 4 years, and I can speak from experience. It was one of the things I disliked, to be frank with you. I disliked this part of the job. I loved almost every other part of it, but largely they are certainly focused on their position during the day. So, yeah.
Any others? Go ahead.
Just a question, have we ever looked at, and I think we talked about this when the stipend issue came up a year or two ago, have we ever looked at whether or not there was an electronic option to post openings at a school that the known approved substitutes could go into to see what was available, especially even for long-term things, to eliminate some burden of phone calls,
Yeah.
voicemails, return phone calls?
I remember
I think we have
we looked into it. I don't know
looked into it.
how deeply we looked into it. I do remember, if I recall correctly, and Sandy, you might remember, as people who were in administrators beyond 4 years ago, we definitely talked about it in an administrative council meeting at one point, and maybe even saw a demo of it. And I remember us thinking that it was not, at that time, we didn't like the option because it was a little bit dehumanized. That's a real negative word, but the efficiencies that we might gain would be outdone by the lack of personalization, because a lot of the reason that we're able to fill these spots is the personal relationship that we have with the substitute teachers, and that they will go to work at a certain school because they start to become part of the family there, as such. So we definitely did, but I don't think it was a real deep study, to be honest with you. That's my hazy recollection of it.
Anything else? So we'll take a vote, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us up to interim superintendent hiring process update. And the committee has been really updated along the way with emails. And I did speak to Dr. Nash, and she is expecting to start on July 9th with or without the waiver confirmation, because she still can make a little bit of salary, and she understands if we do not get the waiver that she will not be working here. And she didn't want to waive her a retirement pension, so that, I had asked her that, and she said no. So we got the waiver in last Wednesday, and Stephanie and Elaine did the bulk of answering the questions about the candidates, saying they were on the screening committee. We did get contacted twice from DESE, asking us more information on the candidates and why weren't they considered. And Greg, do you want to add to that?
No, I would just add to that, my thanks to you, Mrs. O'Coin, and Mrs. Rabbit, Mrs. Reed, those who've worked. You put a lot of work into this for a yearbook. And a senior banquet meal. And I think, I honestly feel, that you've done the best you can do. And now it's a waiting game. And, this young man, he might not be young for all I know, Donovan Bentley from the DESE seems to be running this thing, and he's been very quick getting back to us with information. And it would appear, having not heard from him in over 24 hours, that he is satisfied with the information we've provided now, and I really feel like they're really going to review it now, and I'm hoping, we're all hoping for a very quick response. Well, as long as it's favorable, I guess we'd rather wait and than get a negative one. But so no, I commend people for the work that they've done, and if they're, I'll just say that if there's anything that the committee needs from me in between the end of this week, well, so in July, you know, I'll help you in any way that I can. If you
Well-
need somebody to come in once a week, or you have a crisis and you need somebody to kind of handle it, I will do that. I
You
don't
did
wanna
say,
leave-
Greg, that you would be interested in doing this week up until July 9th. And if the committee agrees to that, because we do need someone
Yep.
holding
the only-
down the fort until,
So next week is a huge vacation week, and I have planned to be on vacation until Thursday and then start in Auburn on Friday. However, what I will say is if there is any kind of a crisis, I'll help you with it. And so I can, like, essentially still be, because if I were still gonna be the superintendent, I'd probably be away next week anyway.
right, right.
So if you need me, you call me, and I will be there, and we can figure it out from there. But if at any time in July, what happens in July is, it's the, knock on wood, it's the best month, because everybody's on vacation and everybody's happy and all that. So you have to keep the flow of information going, though. You're getting, you know, there might be hirings rolling in that have to be approved, and that has to go quickly because it's July. Then you've got field trip applications and all kinds of different course approvals, you know, for teachers, reimbursements that have to be approved, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of that stuff that has to be done. Sandy's probably thinking of 100 other things that I'm not thinking of. And then things do happen. You get issues where you need to address the media, or you need to send a message out to the staff or the families, and we hope that won't happen this July. But if you recall, last July, we lost Steve Peters, and it was just horrible, and it turned into a terrible month. So if anything like that happens and you do not have Dr. Nash in place yet, you let me know. Well, I'll probably already know, and I'll be willing to help you handle those things. Your other option would be to you know, deputize a current internal administrator for any time between then and the permanent, you know, permanent interim
Well,
candidate
I
being put in
think,
place.
this is my suggestion, I'm just throwing it out, that we keep you on for another week now, and it's just like you're going to go on vacation, but you're our superintendent, so if anything comes up, you're on call, and you just continue your position this coming week. That's my suggestion.
Well, I think technically, his tenure ends June 30th. If we're going to do that, we have to make a formal vote. He could
Right.
just
Oh,
kind of come
no.
in and sign things.
No,
But
that's
my
what-
question is, on a follow-up of that, if the waiver is denied before July 9th, we have to have another plan.
Yes,
And we're
Right.
counting on the waiver passing, and
Right.
it doesn't,
you should be
so
considering another
I don't
plan.
think this is just a one-week plan. We have to have a,
Oh,
so I
right,
think we have to
right.
address that even before,
Mm-hmm.
because if we decide to appoint someone within the staff as a interim, they would start July 1st, if the waiver fails.
They could.
We have to be prepared for that failure. And I don't
But
think you can
my
run the
thing
system,
is-
you can't run this place in Auburn all summer long. We need
No.
somebody
Right.
within the system at least.
I'm not sure I could run one or the other.
Right, exactly.
Never mind both.
But I'm
Well,
saying
just-
to keep him on, that we've got that problem solved for a week. We're going to come up with a plan now. If the waiver fails, we have to come up with a plan. Are we going to go back to a screening committee? Are we going to just come and vote on another candidate that we know? Are we going to maybe go internally and get someone as an interim, try to recruit someone? So we have to come up with a plan, but this is just short-term for a week until Dr. Nash comes on July 9th. We might have to call a special meeting if
I'm
she
just
doesn't
throwing
get
it
the
out,
waiver.
and I'm not making a big deal, but if Mr. Desto is going to stay on 1 or 2 days, what kind of salary are we looking at? Is it per diem? How many days he comes in?
Yeah.
Are we gonna say you stay at your salary until each time we get something? We have to do these
Yeah.
mechanical
I'm
stuff.
suggesting he stays at his salary.
But he's on vacation the whole week.
I
I
don't
don't think he
care.
should be paid.
It's like,
Oh, I
he's still our
wouldn't be paid.
I don't think you
superintendent.
should be paid for
No,
your vacation.
only
week.
if I get called in, I would think.
I
That's what I
think
mean.
it's, just keep you on as the superintendent, and you're on vacation, and you're on call. That's my opinion.
I wouldn't agree with that. He ends June 30th, and it's nothing against you. I don't think you should be paid if you're on vacation when you've already resigned. I think that
Well,
seems
I
crazy.
actually agree with you.
I think that's crazy.
If I'm gonna be just essentially on call next week,
Right,
then you only pay me if I have to come in.
exactly. That's what I
That's
thought.
fine.
That's what I think.
I can work with that.
I think it should be per
Yeah.
call, per diem.
Yeah, and then if, after that, we'll see what happens. If you need me a day a week, I think even when somebody is in place, I think there would be
Right.
a need for me to help, with the transition and
Yes.
spend a few days with that person, so I'm willing to do that as well.
I agree with what you're saying, but there is a certain level of responsibility for being on call and a certain level of stress associated with that. So I think that we should discuss a little bit more, perhaps a stipend situation because he's on call.
Right. And my suggestion is just give him his same salary for another week, because he's on call, he's like our superintendent, he's got the responsibilities. You would be on vacation anyway if you were our superintendent, so that's my suggestion. I'll vote for that, but whoever wants to make a motion, make one. It's, you guys have to make the motion.
So let's have just some further discussion on options, okay? So I've heard per diem and I've heard stipend. So per diem, if Mr. Desto's needed to come in, for a day and a half, a week until we're settled, then we should establish what a per diem rate is, for the day, or an hourly rate if you've got to pick up and answer some questions, so that's one option that I've heard, and then I've heard the option of a stipend. I think beyond next week, and if Dr. Nash is starting on the 9th or is not starting on the 9th, we're still going to need Mr. Desto's insight and expertise, his awareness of the district to create a transfer of responsibilities to a new person. So I think we should be establishing at least a per diem rate for you if you're coming in once a week for a time period to settle things. I think that's something that we should consider. Whether or not how we handle next week is a separate subject. I'm more concerned about being able to access you, and you've been very kind to offer your commitment to the district to make sure that we transfer over, that we establish a per diem rate, so that we
And-
know that we have your availability.
And it's easy to establish the per diem rate. Just take your days and your salary and divide it. And I agree with that you will probably have to come in when we have Dr. Nash. So it'll be an easier transition.
I'll tell you, when I started, in understanding I didn't have a fraction of the experience that Dr. Nash has, but we don't know 100% who it's going to be. Sean was still there, and he was there for the month of July. I don't remember all the details, and he was, you know how he is. He's so respectful, and he wants to stay out of the way. But I kind of remember looking at my computer the first day and saying, okay, now what do superintendents do? That's an exaggeration, but certainly there were a lot of things I knew I had to do, but I needed him. I desperately needed somebody to tell me, what does this really look like? And so, yeah, I'll be able to do that, and as little or as much as you need me.
So that'll be a separate motion.
Yeah.
That whoever wants to make it, that we're going to hire him per diem and help with the transition. But how about for next week? I just think we should just keep Greg on as if he was still here as our superintendent, get paid that way, just for next week, even though you're on vacation. That's my decision.
A one-week contract like in the NBA. They give those one-week contracts.
But so I'll entertain a motion. What are we going to do about next week? Who wants to make a motion?
Can I just ask Mrs. O'Clain before we talk about, what do you forecast being on the agenda next week, with it being Wednesday holiday? I know, if anything, I know the flurry of activity is really related to Mr. Matthews' office, more so because he's got the end-of-year closeout. Are there any time deadlines or big things that are happening that, obviously you wouldn't be taking the week off if there was a lot of that stuff going on.
Yeah, it's not one of the busier weeks of the year, frankly, but there are still things to do related to hiring and all those other things I referenced earlier. There's also gonna be some assistance needed in probably putting together the school committee package, which if we're meeting on the 11th, which I think is the plan as of now, although that might be something you talk about later tonight. So there would be that as well. But there's always a lot, but there's some lingering issues that will either be tied up by me or will be left for the next person to pick up where I left off, and, you know, whether they be parent complaints or those kinds of things. So there's always stuff, but like you said, whether I was continuing on in the job or not, I was hoping to be on vacation the first 4 days of the week, so I'll accommodate whatever the committee decides.
I think the simplest thing to do would be to continue Mr. Desto's salary for the 1 week, because if he is on call and something does occur, he needs to come back from vacation wherever he is to help us with that. And that's a big responsibility. So I would be concerned with trying to be penny wise, pound foolish for 1 week of salary.
So is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay. Do I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion on
I'd
it?
just like to, I'm not being penny wise, pound foolish. I think it is not right to be paying a person who has resigned, who is now on vacation, to be paid a week's salary. I don't see it. It's not penny wise, pound foolish. That's not the issue. I think if you want him to come in, he should be, if we have to call him up, I'd come in, we figure out what the pay is per day and handle it that way. So I'm gonna vote no. It's nothing against you, it's the concept.
One more thing is, whichever way the committee decides, I am supposed to start in Auburn on Friday, so it would be 4 days. I can't get paid by both places, so.
Okay. So it'd be 4 days' worth of salary
Right.
from
Yeah.
us if we went
So we'll
forward with
put
that.
4
If that's what you
days,
decide.
we'll go with the motion, 4 days worth of salary. Do I have a second?
Why don't you just call it 4 days of per diem? Because all you're doing is you're taking his salary and you're breaking it
Okay.
down to a per
Yeah,
diem thing.
so it'd be
And
the
then it's
same, it'll
not-
come out to the
It's
same.
not saying that we've
It
maintained
will
the
come out to
salary.
the same, the salary, so it's 4 days of per diem, okay? So did I have a second on the motion?
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries, opposed, 1. Okay, now,
Mrs. O'Quinn?
are we going to?
Mrs. O'Quinn.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Matthews is.
Just a point of clarification, Wednesday's a holiday. I want to make sure that everybody understands we're going to be paying for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for Mr. Desto to cover the district as acting superintendent. That is correct, right? So we're going to pay him for the holiday as well?
What do you normally do?
Well, if you're an employee, normally you would obviously have the holiday. This is a unique circumstance, so I'm not sure if you're considered an active employee or simply an employee on call working for those 4 individual days.
That's a good point.
And if you're, one last thing, if you're not available on Friday, who's going to help put together the school committee packet?
I don't know.
No, that's fair enough.
don't know.
Thursday, we'll put the school committee packet, can we do it on Thursday?
I can still help you. I'm just saying I can't get paid by both places. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
He'll still help.
Yeah.
We didn't think of that one.
I think with, I don't know, if Sandy can pull up the July meeting. Usually our July calendar is our lightest agenda, if I'm correct, because we are doing more work in August when we're starting to get ready for the school year. So July, our big thing is making, we're usually tightening up people who are going to the conference or not going to the conference. If Sandy's pretty fast over there, she might be able to pull up the agenda from last July.
Now,
To look at.
I've got a question to ask you, Greg. you said you can't get paid with two places, but if you help us out during the summer, you're getting paid in two places.
Right, but what I was saying is that I'm actually working in Auburn on Friday. So I wanted to make sure you weren't gonna pay me for being on call on that day, because I'm working there, you know what I mean? But if you needed me to come in on a Monday in late July,
You'd be
then I
working
would be
here.
able to come in
Yeah.
here and focus just on this place.
Mrs. O'Coin?
Yes,
Do we have somebody in place that, when Mr. Desto does leave, like, if something happened on Friday, who is our leader that day?
right.
No.
Is it Mr. Matthew? Or, like, who is
That's
the
gonna be our,
next?
right, we'll have to make
Because I
that
think that
decision.
that's what we need to decide on.
Right, see, I didn't know he wasn't available Friday, you just sprung that on me.
Like I said, I can still help Friday.
Right.
I just can't, I'm not gonna accept pay from two places.
Yeah, but he still can help, so we can still call him, we know where he is, just like if he's on vacation.
It's only a 15-minute ride, and
I think if we're not having a meeting again until the 11th, and say our new superintendent, actually, that if that falls through.
We might have to have a special
Oh,
meeting, I
okay.
said. We
Okay.
might have to call a special meeting,
Got it.
yeah.
I think to follow up with, I think what Jordan said, I think we should have someone on staff that's second in command. You don't know what could happen. I think there should be someone that we appoint tonight, that if you aren't available, who's in charge? We have nobody, basically. I think we should make that decision. I know we have 5 people on the staff that are certified as superintendents. I'm sure one of them can step up to the plate until this is kind of squared away. So I'd make a suggestion. that
Well,
we
wait,
just-
we've got a motion
but
on the
it's-
floor.
okay.
Let's straighten
Well,
this out, and then we'll
okay.
find out who we
After
want
getting-
to. So we're discussing about the pay. So are we going to pay him for 3 days or 4 days? Because we'll have to come up
No,
with
it's the holiday.
the money.
So can we pay him twice?
So, what's discussion, what's the committee's wishes? Should we just pay him the 4 days?
So, we've already voted on a 4-day.
Oh, we did, okay. We did vote on 4 days?
6 to 1.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it that way. All right,
Unless there's an emotion.
unless, because we had a motion and it was approved.
Unless
Okay.
unless somebody
Holidays,
feels
too.
differently
Differently
about
about it.
the holiday
About the
being
holiday,
in the middle of the week.
yeah. And
I still think, though, if there's an emergency
he's
on
going to,
July
whether a
4th,
holiday.
which it could
yeah,
be,
Absolutely.
we're gonna
Right.
call him.
That's what I'm.
We're gonna call him anyway.
Unfortunately.
It's just, that's why I had said, just like he was our superintendent, there's a holiday coming up, we're going to call him anyway. Even if he's at work Friday, if there was an emergency, we'd call you. Okay,
Sorry
Kathy,
that
go
you thought
ahead
this was
now.
gonna be a real vacation, and somehow it's not.
Listen, between the 2 jobs and my son's schedule, this is the best I'm gonna do for a vacation, so.
Okay, Kathy, go
Well, I
ahead.
think it's a follow-up with Mrs. Carmignani. We need to appoint someone for any emergency that may come up, and Mr. Destino's not available, and we still don't have a superintendent. If this waiver fails, we're in big trouble in terms of who's
Okay,
in
so
charge.
at July 9th, we're going to have someone, we're going to,
By then, we should know about hopefully by the
Right,
waiver, I
right.
would think.
You
But-
may even know by the end of this week, I mean, it's.
right, but you
we don't
want,
know.
just in case we don't
we should- I
have
think
an
we
answer
should
by
explore
July
that.
9th, you
I
want
think-
someone.
I think that someone should be appointed to act in your stead.
Absolutely, especially even if Dr. Nash comes in,
Right.
Right,
we should still have some secondary.
just in case, right,
Absolutely.
right.
I'm gonna just start it a little bit differently, and I don't disagree that we need this, but I think what we should be first talking about is the waiver as a positive and the waiver as a negative, okay? Because that would definitely influence who I would consider to be in an interim position based on how long I think they needed to be an interim.
Okay.
Okay, so if the waiver is positive, and I'm hopeful because everything from the submittal of the packet has been within 20 to 48 hours, we've had contact, we got an acknowledgement right away that, the packet had been received, they contacted us for information, it was responded, and that's the way it's been. So the fact that They had information late yesterday afternoon, have had today. Assuming people are in office looking at it, I'm hoping that we have an answer by the end of the week. So that aside, if the waiver is a positive, and our plan now is based on Dr. Nash coming in, then that's one way to look at who you are appointing to be that contact person. If the waiver is denied, and we have to then consider how are we going to respond now for filling the role of superintendent and what that looks like, then you're looking at an acting authority who has a longer time span of that job. That will influence how I would look at somebody's availability to step into that role. So I think that that's the thing that we need to look at is first, if it's a positive versus it's a negative. So thinking that it's a positive, we're looking at somebody being able to be a point contact person for the same week that we have Mr. Desto being the point contact person, because we're only looking at a 1 week downtime with Dr. Nash starting.
Right.
Once Dr. Nash starts, then Mr. Desto is, as I've understood it, on a per diem basis coming in and working with Dr. Nash to do the transfer of the position. So I don't think that you need an interim if the waiver is a positive.
Right.
Okay? If the waiver is a negative, then we now need to talk about how we want to approach that, and then based on how we approach that, then we need to decide how we want to have an acting line authority person available. That's just how I
Right.
see it.
Well, I just have one thing, though. We're gonna have to appoint somebody either way, only because if Greg's only here until Thursday, we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday before she starts. That's,
But
somebody
it-
has to be appointed just for those 3 days.
But let me just, for the 3 days and what you're looking for someone to do, you're looking for someone to respond to a crisis. Because on Saturday and Sunday, the only thing could be if something happened to a person, an unfortunate circumstance relating to a student, a family, or a staff member. But with the building, you have Mr. Matthew, who's more adept at knowing anything about our facilities than anything else. You're talking about holding hiring and field trips for a day or two. I don't think that that's a critical mass issue that needs to be addressed right away. So I personally, the only day that Mr. Desto is telling me he's not available to physically be in the building and or do things for us is on Friday. Okay, that's the only day that I'm hearing that there's a problem. If the waiver's going through and we're working on that, then July 9th, the issue goes away. If the waiver, and I honestly will feel that DESI knew our timeline, it was very well communicated, and everything that was delivered to them, that Mr. Desto's last day was June 30th, that was the urgency that the committee was working with to fill this role. They know we have a deadline of June 30th. I'm anticipating that we're gonna know before June 30th where we stand. And then we need to decide, to Mrs. Cabala's point, we need to talk about how do we move forward if the waiver is denied. So,
I agree.
Can I ask a point of clarification? Is Mr. Matthew typically second in command? What is our hierarchy?
We don't have one.
We don't have one.
we don't have one right now, but the
Yeah.
previous business manager was.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I
So we'll assume he is right now,
Can I make a
because it
motion?
was before. You can make any motion you want,
Can I-
Kathy.
Can I make a motion to put Mr. Matthew as second in command? For that?
And you're
for those-
making that motion,
For
okay.
those 2 weeks? Okay.
For what, 2 weeks?
Well, until July 9th. Is that?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. Discussion? Go ahead,
Point
Jamie.
of clarification for me. Somebody said there was 5 people that were that were of the right qualification that could fill that role. I assume that you're one of them since we're talking about you. Who are the other 4 people that fit that?
So,
category.
Mrs. Terry, we're talking about who's certified as an
As a
assistant superintendent or superintendent. So it's Mr. Matthew, Mrs. Allen, Mr. Starshevsky, Mr. Packard, and Mr. Chaplin at Shepherd Hill. Mrs. Matarojan.
So that's 6.
There's 6.
Thank you.
I think that is the most logical suggestion, because he's up in the office and he's basically not being pulled away from another building, so to speak.
So I'm gonna make an obvious thing that this is year-end close for Mr. Matthew. This is not the time for Mr. Matthew to accept any extra responsibility.
But we need someone there.
Kathy,
Sorry,
what
it's
did you
just
mean
not the
by
time
2
of year.
weeks?
Oh, I just,
Until our next school committee meeting?
well, yes, until we have a new superintendent start date.
Yeah. Her start date is going to be
Is-
July 9th, and hopefully it'll be confirmed, but
Right.
we're not sure yet.
So Mrs. O'Coin, if I can make
Go
a
ahead.
point. I think the decision that needs to be made is that we suspend anything that is not critical. So some of the things that Mr. Desto talked about, field trips, course approvals, reimbursements, can be put to the side. If hiring is critical, and that's a time-sensitive thing because we can lose a person, I can understand that that would be something that would need to be signed off, but I think the decision that needs to be made is the daily operations that he addresses, unless it is it has an urgent issue, then it should be suspended until either Dr. Nash is in place or we have a contingency plan. If Dr. Nash is not in place on July 9th, and we need to reopen, then we're looking at one of these people moving into a role that is going to be their role, their main role for a time period until we can reactivate what we're looking to do. So that's just my approach to it. I think, next week is a vacation week. If Mr. Desto can easily tell principals, if you have somebody in the pipeline that you're looking at hiring, you need to get them to me before July 3rd. Otherwise, it's going to be on hold for a week. That moves that process up, and I think we're covered. And then anything else, there's nothing here that needs to have an urgent issue that can't be answered after July 9th.
You're all making very logical points. If I may, Mrs. O'Coin, to Mrs. Carmignani, your recommendation, I think, is basically just for July 6, 7, and 8. In case there's a crisis on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Right, and
you're looking,
also,
you're looking more long-term, who's gonna be the number 2 person?
well, I was looking for up to the 8th.
Okay.
Through the 8th. But yes, long-term, I think we need to think about if we
Yeah.
need to. But I was just thinking too, just someone physically in the office.
Yeah.
That if we need to do a quick hire, he'd be able to do
Yeah.
that quick hire without calling him down from vacation. Unless, are you on vacation, Mr. Matthew?
Well,
He's
for a couple of days, yes.
So, Greg, can you, sorry, Mr. Desto, not to, but do people come in and interview with you after the principal has approved them?
We meet with them, but it isn't an
Okay.
interview. It's
Okay.
more of a meet and greet and working on paperwork with Sandy. You're really just, as Mrs. Rabbit said, you're really just talking about what to do if something bad happens. And it has happened to us a lot at inopportune times in the past. So it is possible, and whether or not, for those 3 days, Mr. Matthew is the point person, and he certainly is gonna call me, and we're gonna work it through. And I'm working in Auburn till 5 o'clock. That still leaves time. I could always help in the evening, and I'm not looking to get paid for things like that. I mean, I love this place for 18 years, and so there may be wisdom in simply
We'll
saying.
really still have you on the weekend, in
Yes,
other words.
yes. I mean,
Saturday
if you
and
felt
Sunday.
more comfortable with saying, Mr. Matthews should be the point of contact for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then, hopefully we've got Dr. Nash starting on Monday. If the waiver doesn't go through, it's a different discussion. It's a totally different
Right,
discussion.
and then we're
now.
going to get,
Yeah, we have several people internally who are very capable of, for lack of a better term, holding down the fort until you have made a long-term decision. So that would be something we'd have to talk about at that time. But to get through next week and get to the point where July 9th rolls around, you know, you've got me, and you've got, you know, certainly, I don't think Rich would have a problem with being the point of contact. I don't want to speak for him for those 3 days, but I can certainly help him too with anything that comes up.
Okay.
Would it make sense to say that on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the point of contact, if there's any emergency with people or buildings, the first contact is to Mr. Matthew. Mr. Matthew will then engage you to help resolve the issue?
Yeah, well,
And then-
or leave it at just Mr. Matthew, but, you know, just in the natural course of things, as I would have called Mr. Gilrain at that point in my career, Rich is probably going to pick up the cell phone and call me and just say, hey, what do you think? And then we can work it through together.
You can eliminate the word probably.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none? Any more, Elaine?
No, could you just clarify what it is that we're?
Okay. I think, Kathy, it's going to be for Friday, the Saturday, and Sunday, and Dr. Nash will start on the 9th, right?
Yes.
We'll keep it that. And Mr. Matthew, you will be the one.
Just so that I am clear, we're simply talking about if there's an emergency, I am the person that's gonna get the
Right,
call.
right.
I'm not signing off on any contracts, I'm not doing anything else other than closing the year.
No.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Keep your priorities.
That is okay.
Keep your priorities straight.
Can I ask a question?
Jay.
Mr. Matthew, do you feel comfortable with this?
As a point of contact, yes, absolutely. To sign off on a hire if it comes for a day, sure. Not much else after that.
Fair
You know
enough.
what, really, the issue is, if, in these cases, it's generally notification to the community, working with the media, those are the kinds of things that you have to do, and it's all things that I can help with. Maybe your name is at the bottom of the statement, not mine, but I'd help you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Now, when Dr. Nash comes, do we work on she's going to get the waiver, but should we vote on Mr. Desto coming in per diem as helping her with the transition? Should we do that this evening? So at least he'll know, and then if she doesn't get the waiver, well, then
That's another story.
that's another story, as Mary said.
We'll
Go
still
ahead.
need, even if we don't get the waiver, we'll still need him to come in.
Come in
because
per-
even if
even
somebody
if we
steps
do-
up,
right.
we'll still
Okay.
need you.
So then I'll entertain a motion to approve that we will pay Mr. Desto per diem as we need him.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we make the motion that we approve Mr. Desto to be paid on a per diem basis through August 30th as needed to assist with the
Good.
transition
Very
to
good.
a new superintendent? That way we don't have to, it's not conditional, it's however it's decided that he needs to be here during
Okay.
the summer.
Good.
It'll essentially be decided by whoever's in place as the superintendent, right? They're gonna pretty much dictate, well, gee, I need to go over this, you know.
Right.
Okay.
So I know that you had originally talked about, you know, if you needed to be here for a day, I would assume it might be that you need to be here for a day for the first couple of weeks, and that might be like a half a day, and then it could be that it's just a phone call
Yeah,
situation.
I think that's right. I think
Okay,
that's how
so
it'll go.
Elaine, you can make that motion.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve Mr. Desto to be paid on a either daily per diem basis or an hourly per diem basis as needed between July 1st and August 30th to assist with the transition to an interim superintendent.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion
Yeah,
on
we
it?
already voted from July 1st to the 5th, so this should start on the
So-
6th or 7th. Because you already voted for that through July 5th, wasn't it?
So
So
it'll
July
start
6th.
well,
July
the 9th.
July
I hate to
9th.
be picky, but the 6th.
Yeah, well, it should be
through the 8th
right.
is-
July 9th would start,
Sixth
not,
through the
because
eighth
you already approved
Yeah.
it for the first
So
time.
July 9th through August 30th?
Jamie?
Sorry to throw another thing out here, but since this is essentially doing us a favor to get us where we need to be, do we need to discuss a different rate of pay than the current rate of pay is? Because this is above and beyond maybe what we currently pay for him to do.
Well, I don't want to be picky, but it's really nothing different.
Oh, if I may,
You know,
Mrs.
it's just
O'Connor.
inconvenient, but he's still doing the same work he did before.
But he's doing work when he already has taken another job to
Yeah, but-
assist our district.
I really appreciate that, Mrs. Terry, but I'm fine with the, whatever the FY, is this FY 18?
Yeah. be
Rate
18.
is, that's perfectly fine. But I appreciate the gesture, I truly do.
Well, I look at it as you're certainly coming back to help us out, so. I think that's a different rate in my mind.
Thank you.
Time and a half. Oh, man.
And we're assuming that it's okay with your future employer, that you come back
Yes,
and
she-
assist us?
Yeah, she said, we'll work it out. Yep.
Okay, any other discussions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Okay.
And do we want to do anything else now? Maybe we'll hear about the waiver tomorrow. If need be, we'll probably have to call a special meeting.
So I'm gonna make a suggestion. I think that it's best to be proactive and talk about a possibility of a second date if we need to come in and convene, but
Okay.
it probably
We
would
should be.
be worthy of working that out now.
I think also, out of those 6 people, we would need to know who would really, I mean, we can appoint anybody out of those 6 people, but do they really want to do it, is the question. So,
Right.
out of those 6,
Right.
maybe get a list of who would want to do it if we
Right.
do have to do
Absolutely.
that meeting.
Good idea. So do you want a tentative date to come in if it
I
doesn't?
think it's smart to have a tentative date. We already know that Mrs. Antossi is not
Isn't it
available.
late?
Pretty clear.
Is this next week that you're having?
I would think that it would have to be next week.
I'm out too.
Okay?
All next week?
We only need 4 to start the process.
Kathy,
Yeah, I'm all set.
you're all set?
Sure, I'll go.
So next week, do you want it, like,
Be flexible.
if we find out, we might find out tomorrow, Elaine, too.
I was hoping, trust me, I watched my email all day long today, just praying.
If we find out, do you want to do it the 3rd, the day before the 4th, if we find out?
Is that Tuesday?
Yeah.
I can do Tuesday.
There's a possibility that we could meet during the day.
During
I'm
the
just
day.
looking at Mrs. Antossi's daily work schedule. I can, but you're
How about
gone,
me?
you're not here, so you're off, you're off, you're off. Well, we're more freely available during the day if it's just the 4 of us.
Yeah, so,
But I don't know, do we have to do night because of your work schedule? I'm not typically funny, this is good.
Elaine, I'm gonna be on a plane, so.
No, I wasn't talking about you.
You said Mrs.
Oh, I did?
Antossi.
I meant Mrs. O'Coin, A and A. I'm sorry.
It's in a new seat, you're confused.
I know, I am.
oh,
I've
God.
worked too many hours in the last 24 hours, so.
Honestly, I
So-
think
That
July
was
2nd,
really
then the
funny.
3rd, don't
Yeah,
you?
I
okay,
think
that's
so.
what I was
Right,
looking
during
at,
the
July
day.
2nd.
Yeah.
You want to do July 2nd, everyone? Stephanie?
I'll make it happen, so. Just-
I can't do it.
How
tomorrow.
about-
Don't do it after
Jamie, you
So,
can't come at all,
what time?
right?
Can
Kathy?
you do, like,
You
late
can
afternoon?
come?
Yep.
Okay, July 2nd.
I
Kathy?
have to be up to 12:30.
Okay, it can be after 12:30. I can make it for July 2nd.
She's thinking it might have to be
I could have
night.
done July 3rd.
July
You
3rd
can
during
do
day.
well, we'll change it to the 3rd. We need.
I could do it the 3rd, I can't do it the 2nd.
Okay. How about you, Elaine?
I'll make it happen, whatever you need to do.
Okay,
And you can
me
do it
too.
early morning.
Kathy, is it
No,
okay
no,
with
after
you?
12:30.
Until after 12?
She
Oh,
can't do, she can't do it in the morning.
Oh, on the 3rd?
yeah, she's got
I've
CCD.
all booked all next week until 12:30.
Okay.
Oh, VBS. VBS.
Same thing, CCD. Different letter,
And you
same
can't
thing.
do it any afternoon.
You only need 4 people, you said.
I know.
Right.
So you have 4
Right,
people.
you
Yeah.
have 4 either date.
Either
You
day.
have 4.
Well, it's either Xing out Kathy or Xing out Stephanie. That's what I don't want to make that decision, because if we make it, then you can't make it, Kathy, and if I do it, Stephanie can't make it.
Right.
So in between, what?
Don't you need the videographer? Don't you need it to be videotaped? You're good?
Can you make it Monday afternoon?
I can't definitely say on.
Let's say Monday afternoon, and maybe you'll
Yeah.
be able to
Okay.
make it.
What
It's
about
gonna-
July 3rd afternoon? Could you make July 3rd
No,
afternoon?
she said she couldn't.
Not the afternoon.
What
So-
options do you have?
Right now, I don't have an option right now. I'd have to figure out what to change. But it's fine,
Okay.
you have 4. If I can make it, I can make it, if not,
Try to, though.
Which day are we picking?
Which day, Monday?
you could stay with Monday.
Okay, so we'll stay with Monday.
At what time are you?
Kathy, you,
12:30 is fine, after 12:30 or later.
okay, about 12:45, how's that?
Is it better if we go a little bit later?
Or a little bit later?
Probably later.
Okay, what time?
So what time do you
Give
think
us-
if you were gonna be able to be here that you could do?
2:30.
So maybe
2:30 will be
2:30 on
fine.
Monday?
2:30's fine, right?
Monday?
Yeah. How about you, Kathy? 2:30's fine?
Where's the location?
It will be here, it will be at the central office.
Okay.
Okay? And we probably can have it in the conference room, right?
Of course.
Yeah, we'll post it as that.
Is
Is
it
it
place.
reasonable to assume that you'd be able to have an answer from these 6 people if they felt comfortable moving forward in this manner by then?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
I could have you that by no later than Friday of this week.
great. And even if we're not gonna be at the meeting, I think that would be, I would like to know that answer.
Oh.
Can we post this as post it, but state that it could be canceled if the waiver is approved?
Right.
So waiver's approved, we don't need
We
to
don't
meet. If the
need-
waiver's not
right.
approved, then we need to develop a contingency plan.
I don't think you have to state that in the agenda, you just cancel it if you no longer need it.
Right, you don't have to say, either way is fine.
Either way, it's fine, right? Okay, so we're all set. If we get the confirmation, then there will not be a meeting. All right, so we're going to move on now. Consideration to enroll employee children, Article 23. Mr. Desto.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. So as indicated in your package, I had a late request from a DCTA member at Dudley Middle School for her son to attend DMS as an 8th grader next year. The student is currently enrolled in our district as a school choice student. Class sizes are currently 21 per class in grade 8, so the class size would support this addition. And, you know, as an added note, that we do receive the full per pupil allotment for collectively bargained situations such as this one, as opposed to the school choice rate. So for all of the above reasons, I'm going to recommend your approval, despite the fact that the deadline has passed. I do think it's going to be in the best interest of the student, the employee's family, and us financially.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Consideration to approve home instruction, policy IHBG. Mr. Desto?
Thank you. I have actually 5 requests now. I had 4 in your package and 1 additional request that was added to your package tonight. We have reviewed all the requests and we recommend approval.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Just a
Ely.
question, is it possible that we can get an accounting of the number of school choice students we had during the 2017-2018 year,
Homeschool or school choice?
homeschool?
Absolutely.
I
Either.
think it's just important to know how many
Sure.
students that are opting to homeschool. It's
Yep.
just, at some point in time, parents can make a decision for them to come back in. And
Yep.
it's good to know that we might have, a little pocket that could really impact our class sizes
Yeah.
if these started to come back in.
Yep, we can do that. This is the time, this meeting and the next meeting are the busiest times for these, because they're
Right.
renewing their annual request, but, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
And consideration to approve temporary non-resident enrollment, policy JF.
Thank you again, Mrs. O'Coin. I'm going to ask the committee to table this request because I did not receive the additional information I requested as of the time of the meeting. So I would anticipate this being on the agenda in July.
Okay, and that brings us up to approval of the warrants, and we do have warrants this evening to sign. And before our next meeting dates, we've got a little something to say. Okay. Greg, this is your last official school committee meeting, and I've got a little bio.
Oh, boy. I hope it doesn't go back in, too far back. That
To
could be,
2000.
especially to Bloomingdale, that could be bad.
Okay, Greg, you started working in our district in July of 2000. You previously were an ELA teacher and team leader at Burncoat Middle School.
That's right.
You might as well say you built your career in the Dudley-Charlton from the ground up. You had to plan as part of a team that summer for the opening of 2 brand-new middle schools. You served 4 years as assistant principal before moving up to the helm of the prestigious Dudley Middle School,
That's right.
right? In that position, you were quickly recognized as a natural educational leader. With your quick wit and students' first philosophy, you were liked by parents, staff, and students. Who remembers that school committee meeting in the Heritage School Library where we sat on kid-sized chairs at kid-sized tables when, upon taking a seat to address us, Mr. Desto quipped, "I'm the only administrator who fits in these chairs." You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
It came as no surprise when, in 2011, your contributions as principal were recognized outside of the district by the Massachusetts Secondary School Administrators Association, the National Association of Secondary School Principals Association, and MetLife, who joined forces to honor you as the Massachusetts Middle School Principal of the Year. In 2014, when the need arose to appoint a 6th superintendent of schools, it was only natural that we turned to you to fill that role. In casting their votes for you, members cited your students' first philosophy, perhaps inspired by your quip at Heritage School, but no doubt gained more from the experience of working with you. I told the Telegram, without a doubt, Mr. Desto will be the best fit for our district. You were indeed the best fit for our Dudley-Charlton, and while we applaud the reasons behind your decision to move on to Auburn and back among students about whom you care so deeply, please know that we cherished our time with you and will miss you dearly.
Thank you so much. That's very nice of you.
And
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Desto, you're getting a picture of a chair,
That's good enough for me.
but you will get it in
All
6
right.
weeks.
That is awesome. I'm going to watch the Red Sox and the Patriots from this chair. I just have one quick comment, and that's, that I've spoken, you've probably all spent too many minutes or even hours listening to me speak over the years, but what we do here is really hard, and, we disagree a lot, and we don't take it personally, and I just want to say that in all the years I've been here since 2000, the school committee and my fellow administrators, I never once felt like anybody didn't do what they did thinking it was best for the kids. I think everyone's heart has been in the right place every time, and I think that's an amazing thing to be able to say. And I know that with the people like you and people like Lorinda and Karen and others in the district, it's going to carry forward. And, you know, I'm happy with the situation. The state of the district is good. And, you know, the timing was just right for me as a father to do what I need to do. But, hey, who knows? Maybe someday in some capacity I'll be back. Maybe I'll even join you at this table one of these years. I do plan to continue to live here. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity you gave me. I'm happy to say that together we did a good job, and you will all continue to do a great job going forward.
I'd like to add that you leave your lasting impression with the override that we have. It's leaving us in such good financial shape. That's a credit to you, even though we all worked on it. I've always
Yes.
said you were the steering the ship.
Well, thank you. And like so many other things that we've been able to accomplish, there's a lot of different layers and a lot of different people who did a lot to make that happen. So I'll always be grateful for the people that I've known here. Like Elton John has a song, and it says something like, I thank the Lord for the people I have found. And I've used that a lot in speeches here in the district, because I really, Mrs. Cabala, you know, you lived here, but you work in Worcester. I was working in Worcester and living in Worcester. I thought this was Kansas. I didn't know where I was. Al Thibodeau used to laugh at me because I used to say, Mr. Thibodeau, what are those noises behind my house at night? and he used to laugh at me like I was such a city guy, but it's been an unbelievable blessing. So, and to continue to be able to live here and raise my child and my children here is really an unbelievable blessing. So, I'm a lucky man.
We'll all miss you.
Thank you. I will miss you as well.
We're not letting you go just yet.
No, not yet. I'll still be
So,
around.
I'm going to announce the next meeting dates, and then we'll take a little recess, and everyone can celebrate. And then we'll go into executive session. So, our next meeting dates, the school committee meeting, we did set up a tentative special school committee meeting that will take place on July 3rd at 2:30.
July 2nd.
July 2nd, I'm sorry. And did we say 2:30? Okay.
Yes, we did.
And that will be at the central office in the conference room. Next meeting will be Wednesday, July 11th, 2018, at Shepherd Hill Regional High School, and that will be at 7 p.m. And Wednesday, August 15th, and that'll be at the Charlton Middle School at 7 p.m. Okay? Budget and Finance
Before-
Subcommittee
before you-
will be,
I'm
to be
so-
announced. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, before you move on, is it possible to discuss a possibility of changing the August
Oh,
meeting? If it,
thank you.
because
right,
I
you
will
can't-
be
yeah,
missing
I'm
the July.
sorry.
That's okay. I'll be missing the July meeting, but I would rather not miss. Because I'll be in Italy. But I don't want to miss two in a row.
Okay.
And I will be here the week of August 6th and the week of August 27th, but not the week that the meeting is planned.
Okay.
So I don't know if one of
Can
those
we
other
change it
weeks
to
works.
one of those? I can make either.
If it doesn't, that's okay.
That week of August 27th is the first week of school, which
Mhm.
might be a little bit hard. than
So how
factoring
about
in-
August 6th for everyone? Jamie, August 6th?
Which you were actually saying would be August
August
8th on a
8th.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes, because she has the week of August 6th that she can come. So everybody's good with it? Okay, good. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, everyone.
August, the date will be on a Wednesday, August 8th, at the Charlton Middle School. All right?
Definitely.
Mrs. Oakland?
Can I add something about that? Because we had done a TBA on the sub-finance. Would it be possible to do the 8th instead of doing,
Yeah, honestly, I'd like to avoid meeting in July if at all possible.
right,
But she's
exactly.
talking
so
about-
that's
Yeah,
why
but
I
she's
said-
talking
Meeting on
about
July 8th, on
August.
August 8th would be great.
Yes, okay.
Okay,
So
so
we could do
that's
that?
definite now?
Yes.
Because I said to be announced.
Yep,
Yeah,
at
5
5.
o'clock. Yeah, 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the subcommittee, budget subcommittee, and that would take place on the same evening, August 8th, but it will be at 5 o'clock. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So,
Charlton Middle,
have fun. We're taking a little recess to eat. and then we'll go into executive session. At this time, we're going to enter into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Also, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting will have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body. We will reconvene into regular session to take votes if need be and to adjourn. Okay, I'll take a roll call. Stephanie?
Yes.
Yes. Yes?
Yes.
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 And yes, we're now in executive session.